Hi, you're listening to an audiobook production by K.P. Freed. This is Chapter 7 of Behold Your Little Ones, a compilation edited by Barbara B. Smith and Shirley W. Thomas. Chapter 7, Avoid Anger, A Winning Way by Janet Thomas. And blessed are ye if ye have no disputations among you. 3 Nephi 18:34. The key to easing the sting of disputes that will come to family life is the generosity of spirit, a willingness to accommodate a different viewpoint, or to allow experience to teach without having to have the last word. Quote by Neil A. Maxwell. It is Abraham who took the initiative and said unto Lot, Let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee. The complete genuine willingness of Abraham to adjust to whatever Lot's decision was is the mark of a generosity of spirit of that remarkable patriarch. End quote. As a child growing up in my parents' home, and even as an adult, I never remember my father yelling. He simply never expressed his anger or displeasure in this way. I know now that this trait was an attribute of his nature as well as a conscious choice. But simply not hearing loud voices raised an argument in our home has had a profound influence in the lives of my brothers and sisters and me. I have a clear memory of one incident that happened when I was about 7, in which my father taught me by his example and let me learn from my own experience. It was a gusty spring day, and my father had brought home a kite for us to fly. Being the oldest, I assumed that the kite was mine. We were in the front yard, and the kite was flying high above the neighbors' homes. The string was played out nearly to the end. We were having a wonderful time, but the wind that was keeping the kite aloft also blew in a few dark clouds. In the distance, I heard a faint clap of thunder. Then a very few raindrops fell. I panicked. I had visions of my beautiful paper kite soaked and ruined. I had vaguely heard about Benjamin Franklin and his kite being hit by lightning. Suddenly, I had to get my kite down now. I started pulling the string in without taking time to wind it, letting it gather in a tangled heap at my feet. My dad tried to reason with me. He told me that the rain was so light it wouldn't hurt my kite. He asked me to wind the string around the cardboard holder so that it wouldn't become tangled. I was beyond reason. I couldn't put my fears into words. In fact, I'm not sure I knew enough to verbalize what was frightening me. I just had to get that kite down immediately. Instead of yelling at me, grabbing the string out of my hands, or shoving me aside, Dad let me pull the kite in, tangled string and all. As soon as the kite was on the ground, it became clear that what my father had told me was true. My kite was fine. It was not wet, torn, or burned. But the string was a hopeless mess, a mess I had created unnecessarily. If I had listened to my father, I could still have had my kite with a usable string that could be flown again. I remember realizing even at that early age that what my father had told me was right, and that it would have been better for me if I had done what he told me. My father's example of avoiding an angry display taught me more vividly than any other method. In his book that my family should partake, Elder Neil A. Maxwell says, Our children, seeing the sermon of our actual behavior, more than hearing what we say, are bound to make their own assessment of our relationship as parents. John Donne wrote, "The subsequent life is the best printing and the most useful and profitable publishing of a sermon." End quote. I now know that this would be the lifelong pattern my father would use to teach his children. He would tell us the truth about a situation and what he thought we ought to do about it. Then, when we made a decision, he would not fly into a rage when we did not follow his guidance or advice. He would never even say, "I told you so," when the result would be exactly as disastrous as he anticipated. He was there to ask us what we thought of our experience, sincerely and with no anger. He was also there to pick up the pieces. We soon learned that it was a very good thing to follow Dad's advice. Anger was useless and got us nowhere.